really strange that a lot of black sheeps can do a lot of things, right? And a lot of times we have pure hearts. We're really, really good people. We're not perfect people, but we usually have a lot of trauma. And so tonight I want to talk about that. But yeah, it's just kind of, I don't know. I want to play the song one more time. It just kind of hit me in a special place. But let me say this. Whether you know me or not, you connecting with energy. Everything is frequency, energy, and vibration. And I feel like somebody else needed to hear this, you know. So I'm someone who has not only been a black sheep, but I'm considered weird, right? Like I don't fit into anything. I'm wild. I'm rebellious. I'm all of those things, but it's in like the most sacred way, right? Possible. So yeah, before I begin, because I have no fucking idea what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give y'all 30 minutes of my time. I'm gonna try not to go over that. I'm not an undergiver, I'm an overgiver. So yeah, so we go do that, and I just want y'all to just vibe, just vibe, you know. Yeah, just read the vibes, just sit back and listen to the vibes, because it's a lot of shit happening in the world right now. It's probably a lot of things happening in your world, and if you don't know how to master your emotions, you can't master your reality. If you can't, manipulation is not negative, right? So I'm someone who has studied the occult. So, you know, I studied everything, right? So I studied the Bible until I understood that it was astrotheology, you know, and until you get to that point in your journey of knowledge and actually start applying the knowledge, there are going to be limitations you're not going to know how to work with and get by, and that's where I come in. So yeah, so I'm going to play this from the top, because I'm really feeling this shit right now. If only I had like all the setup and the shit that I need, I would go so hard in this music shit. Y'all have no idea what's been sitting inside of me waiting to get out. But there's just a little sample plate. Can y'all hear it? In my soul, been caught in a cold. There's a ache in my bones, 'cause I walk alone. My eyes on my throne, so tell me who knows where I'm coming from. The deeper I go, ain't nobody coming to get me. Ain't nobody coming to fix me. But can't nobody love me like I do. I'm learning every day to live in my truth. I can't be worried about what not gonna be for me. Black sheep, lone wolf, misunderstood, unique, too deep. Anybody too deep? She not cheap. Anybody not cheap? She don't break. Who don't break easy? Easily. You can't roll over my eyes, 'cause my third eye sees. I have no interest in words, I read energy. I'm protected, I'm respected. I don't take shit, I don't break shit. I'm a builder, cultivator. I can shape shit. I've been bending my soul. Feeling like I've been caught out in the cold. There's an ache in my bones, I gotta let it go. I try so hard to be in the flow, but I was in resistance. Didn't know my persistence was working against me. Now I'm relaxing. I teach it in the sacred sister circle. I ain't playing with the motherfuckers, 'cause if you motherfuckers, you about to be the mother lovers. I'm switching this shit, I'm switching this game, and that's what I get. I put in the work, so now I relax. I will My eyes on my throne. Keep your eyes on your throne. What is the throne? That's into my soul. Ashe. I see you, sis. Keisha. So, okay. Black sheep, that's what we're talking about. I feel like this conversation is so necessary because a lot of people who are black sheep don't know why, right? So let me tell you some signs that you are a black sheep, as if you don't already know. But some of the signs of being a black sheep is that you are highly empathic. You read energy, right? You've been like that probably your whole life. That's that kind of energy where you are 6 years old and you feel like this new stepdaddy don't really mean your family well, and you picking up on the energy, and maybe you behaving in a way where your mama don't like it. Maybe you was a truth teller. Maybe you was the one sitting at the table like, I'm really not feeling this dude. And it could have been years before anything ever happened that made it make sense. But as a kid, you was probably told, be quiet. A kid stay in a kid's place. Kids are to be seen and not heard, kind of thing. So black sheep tend to be truth tellers, but we also tend to pick up on energy, right? Black sheeps also usually don't have a lot of close friends, but you have a lot of affiliates. So a lot of people who probably reach out to you, a lot of people who will probably see you out in the streets and like, how you doing? What's up? I ain't seen you in a minute, kind of greet you in that way. But when you need somebody, it's rarely people there for you. Black sheep usually are really good at dealing with problems. And so a lot of times they attract people who have problems, and that's what they come to you for. But then who do you talk to? Like who can actually give you real advice? Black sheeps usually are people who can't really get good advice from people because you're kind of like the advice giver in your circles. All right. This is until you start doing shadow work and alchemy so that you can actually create a reality where you do have people to call, where you do, you can trust people, you can trust people energy. Another thing about black sheeps is that we often have our sexuality sometimes might seem like it's not connected, but our sexuality, our sexual senses and picking up on subtle energies is something that usually starts early. And so let me bring this full circle for you. So there's something called Kundalini energy, and it's just basically life force energy. It's called chi, it's called prana. Every culture in this world had a representation of that. And so when you have a soul contract to be a cycle breaker, the Kundalini energy that is available within you may be more active at an earlier age. And so sometimes that can actually lead to people misreading your energy or people thinking that you're older than you really are. And so I know for me, I would attract people who were older than me. And, and it's kind of weirded me out. And I had experiences as a kid where it was almost as if they perceived me as being seductive, but I was a fucking kid. I wasn't being seductive, right? But it was confusing. And so throughout my life, this was something that I noticed that was congruent. Another thing about black sheeps is that we're often misunderstood. People often misinterpret the things that we say. People misread us. People don't really understand. Even if you're explaining it to them, they don't understand. And so that's because this shit is really trippy. Because you're going to hear me say some things you never heard before. This is why I'm Camps in the Untamed Oracle. Because the access to knowledge is untamed, it's unbound. But there's a filter. And that filter is inside of what we would call your throat chakra. So this is the chakra energy center that rules over speech, communication, our messages. So there's a filter that's inside of you. And that filter, oftentimes based on how much experiences you've had and what you've done with those experiences. So let's just say your voice was shut down. Maybe you were a truth speaker, but it wasn't something that was supported. People didn't like it. So you learn how to not speak your truth. And you learn how to not speak your truth to the point where you felt like the only time you were safe was when you wasn't speaking your truth. So over time, after you practice that and practice that over and over again, it becomes second nature and you don't have to think about it. So there's like this muffle that's going to be on you when you are a black sheep. So you may be starting to speak your truth now because we're going through this whole awakening process, but it's muffled. And someone else who is empathic, intuitive, and an energy reader, they're gonna understand you. You probably won't even really have to explain. They get it. But people who are not in alignment with your innermost being, they're probably going to oftentimes misunderstand you. And there are a lot of factors that go into this. And I get into that in the alchemical course that I have, where I simplify alchemy, because alchemy can be really complicated to understand alchemy and actually make it practical. But I explain this in many different aspects. So there's a lot of miscommunication that happens. Black sheeps are usually great liars. Lying was a way that we also developed to be safe, because if my truth isn't being supported, then I got to learn how to tell people what they want to hear so I can be safe. As kids, you can't help but, there's something called survival mode. And survival mode basically is a person whose nervous system is in fight or flight, freeze, or fawn, the 4 Fs. So as a kid, if you had situations that was happening and you weren't really able to change it, control it, or get away from it, you had to find a way to adapt to it, right? So if you couldn't fight your way out of the situation, then you probably learned how to fawn. And fawning is basically people pleasing. And so oftentimes the intention of our lives is really to create safety and to try to create some type of homeostasis. You know what I'm saying? The intention is usually not to be malicious. And I know a lot of us might feel like we don't like liars. If you don't like liars, but you had to suppress your truth and maybe you learn how to be a liar yourself, something really simple as I'm okay, but you're really not okay. And somebody asks you how you doing and you're like, I'm okay, but you really not. That's lying. So if you say things like, oh, I hate liars, because a lot of times the language that we use and speak is what disempowers us, and it casts a spell over us, and it cannot be broken until we break it. We have to unbind ourselves from the spells that were created by the lies that we tell. Otherwise, you end up living in your own personal hell. And no matter what you do, you always feel like you fail. And I can really keep this shit going like a ship with a sail. But this is not what this is about tonight. But so what happens is you start to hate that part of you that had to lie to survive. So guess what you're going to attract? You're going to attract dishonesty. Until you can learn how to be neutral. At least neutral. You ain't got to like it. But if you could learn how to be neutral, then you won't attract dishonest people, right? Because their lying could be malicious. It could be for malicious reasons. And this is why 50 people could walk onto a car lot and you'll get that one salesman who lie to sell cars. And everybody else like, I got a real good car from them. And you like, that car was a lemon. I literally had to take it back. Why did that happen to you? Well, if you haven't gotten to the point yet where you're able to embrace this shadow aspect of yourself that you don't like, you're going to attract liars. And these are the things that are confusing to people that happen in day-to-day life, that I demystify, and being able to decode these things, it makes life a lot more pleasurable to live. Life doesn't have to be a constant struggle all the time. Another sign that usually is associated with black sheeps is that we have this really strong connection with music. For a lot of us, music was our therapy. For a lot of us, music was the only therapy we had. And actually, to be honest with you, I became a Christian. I wouldn't say I was forced, but I did feel like it was the only choice I had to improve my life, because those moments, just being able to be sitting and listening to the A and B selection. It was like, that was a moment of peace for me. It was a moment of clarity. And this is why, even though I'm spiritual minded and not religion, I've already went through all of the labyrinth of religion, because there are levels of consciousness, and there are great people who are still in religion, and there are great people who aren't. Like, that's another conversation for another time. I've taught about this for many years, but saying that to say this, for a lot of us, music is one thing that made us feel okay, and it made life a little bit livable. So this is a common theme with Black Sheeps. Another common theme with Black Sheeps is that we tend to put ourselves last because we've spent a lot of our life feeling alone and misunderstood. So to try to fix that, because inherently in all of us, there's a need for connection. And we can deny it all day long, but it's a need for connection. Depending on your natal chart and your human design as well, determines how strong that need for connection is for you. So again, childhood is psychological enslavement. It's entrainment. As babies and children, like, who the hell you go call to come and fix things at your house when stuff going wrong? If there's chaos happening in your house, like, what you really go be able to do about it? Really not much. And so that's a common thing, is that we grow up in households that was chaotic, and it could be really, really, really subtle. And sometimes just turning the music up and shutting everything out was how we survive. So that's a common thing with Black Sheeps as well. And another thing that I find, I'm pulling out things that I don't hear people talk about a lot, because redundance is at this point redundant, and it's not going to help anybody do anything different. But another thing with Black Sheeps is that we almost feel like we should be famous for something. Maybe we don't know what it is, but we know that we're different, and we feel like it's something that stands out about us. Maybe you feel like a camera is following you sometimes, or you feel like you're being watched. You know what I'm saying? I always feel like somebody's watching me. I see why he made that song. I get it. It's this feeling that I'm supposed to be in the limelight. I'm supposed to have some type of notoriety. But a lot of times we lack the support systems to achieve certain things. And this is the last sign I'm going to get into, but we start to be the kind of people who become perfectionists because of this feeling, and you can't make it make sense. So you try to do everything perfectly, and that's stressful. That's something that is embedded deeply in a lot of us, because maybe we felt like it was something wrong with us, the reason why certain conditions that we grew up in was happening. Maybe we felt like we were supposed to fix it. And so you become the kind of person who you try to do everything on your own. You have this deep fear of being a burden. You don't want to be a burden on people, right? You don't want to be a burden on nobody. You can even be married and have needs that you don't express because you don't want to be a burden. That is a really real thing. And it's so embedded in us that it's physiological. So it's like something takes over your entire body. And you'll try to figure out a way to do everything by yourself. And this is why we end up burnt out. This is why we end up feeling taken for granted and feeling like people take advantage of us. If you're living in this state, and I assume that people who are watching this video and I'm attracting, you are someone who maybe is attracted to manifestation, right? And just the art of being able to co-create your reality in a deliberate way. All right, is that something that y'all resonate with? Like, is that something you're attracted to? Because everybody not attracted to that. Okay, everybody ain't out here trying to become the better version of themselves and actually willing to put some time and effort and energy into doing it. So I'm assuming that most of y'all here, this is the vibe y'all on. I see the hearts. I say, okay, thank you for letting me know. So what happens is you take on a lot of responsibility, and you combine that with not feeling understood and like you lack support. And this is the reason why black sheep oftentimes have several different mental health things going on at one time. And I'm going to name a few. And then I want to talk about living in survival mode a little bit more before I get off this live. I appreciate y'all. Just want to let you know, if nobody told you today, I appreciate you. You know, it's a beautiful thing to be able to just affirm each other. I just wanted to drop in and say that. Because sometimes we need to hear it, you know. But there is this addiction with perfectionism, and you're actually trying to fix your childhood subconsciously by trying to do everything perfect. I understand the weight of that. And it annoys you. People who don't try, it annoys you. You know, you see how hard you be trying. And sometimes it seems like other people just have things handed to them. That's a common theme with black sheeps. And let me get into this real quick. So there is something called your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is basically survival mode. This is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. This is where you are easily triggered. You are easily startled. This is where sometimes you just have this feeling of anxiety that just shows up. Sometimes it shows up for no reason at all, just out the blue. That's your sympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite. It's when you're in your relaxed state. It's when you're not worrying or feeling anxious about anything. When fear is not running your life. You know, when you're not tethered and attached to trying to control people, places, and things that you can't control. Like, all of that is sympathetic nervous system. But parasympathetic relaxation, this is why meditation is one of the main pillars to transformation, because learning how to relax your body even when your mind is busy is you learning how to be a master over yourself. You know, and then you know, if you really think about it, society has been set up to keep us in survival mode. Everything, especially now, everything's about survival. Everything happening to me in the world in the end. I mean, I used to be one of the people. And this is a necessary phase in awakening where you start to notice all of the terrible things that's happening. But it wreaks a havoc on your nervous system. And so you have to actually intentionally give yourself breaks from that, especially if you're an empath. Empaths, we absorb information. We absorb the energy that is cannot be seen, that is embedded in the information. So we have to give ourselves time to get into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. So if you have digestive issues, more than likely you have been living in your sympathetic nervous system and you've been living in survival mode. Now, this is a great thing, because if a bear is chasing us, we need that cortisol and that adrenaline to rush us, to give us strength to get away from the threat. However, if you're somebody who easily gets defensive, so let's say you have no digestive issues, but you get easily defensive. I mean, even as a parent, getting defensive towards your children, like your 4-year-old say something to you and you get defensive. It's no shame. I'm calling it out because it's something that we usually don't like and don't want people to know that happens. So if you get defensive easily, you're living within this sympathetic nervous system survival mode. And if you've been living that way, I think a lot of us been living that way for years. And every day it seems like something is happening. It seems like a struggle. And you literally start to feel like a victim to your own life, a victim to every circumstance that occurs. This is a sign that your nervous system needs healing. freeze. Let's talk about freeze just a little bit. That is another one of the 4 F's. So freeze is, there's a threat. I can't get away from it. So I'm just going to freeze. I'm not going to move. And we see animals do this. If it's an attacker and you don't feel like you're able to, deal with the predator, you just freeze. Like a turtle goes inside the shell. And so energetically, if you're frozen energetically, and this was a common way that you coped as a child, you might not remember, but this is probably how you coped as a child. Some of the signs of living in freeze mode is feeling numb, not really feeling anything. Anhedonia, so like activities that usually make you feel happy, and kind of like blah, everything is like blah. Not being able to move, right? It's almost like you need to get up and put the clothes in the washing machine. They already separated and ready to do it, but you cannot get up to do it. You're not really busy doing nothing else. You cannot get your body and your brain aligned to get up and do it. So a lot of times we would probably call lazy, and maybe we even start to call ourselves lazy. But really, your nervous system just goes into freeze when there's a threat. And the threat could be something that ain't even happening in your present moment. The threat could be you reliving an emotional flashback inside your body. The astrology has so much to do with why we go through these loops of experiences. So nothing may be actually happening. Or maybe you just got a phone call from a bill collector and you don't know how you go pay your car note. And you thinking about, okay, if I can't pay my car note, my car get repoed, I can't get to work, right? So going into freeze is a way to protect yourself from the threat of that. This is why we sometimes lay in bed and on our phone just scrolling. Have you ever really paid attention to how much time you spend doing that? These are signs that you live in freeze mode. So these are some of the common things that I teach about in the course, and I wanted it to be enlightening, but I wanted it to be fun. I don't want people to leave feeling ashamed and feeling worse about themselves, because I'm not gonna lie to y'all, shadow work is not easy. Shadow work is I'm looking at all of this stuff about me and I'm learning how to not judge it. And then the next level to shadow work is, okay, not only do I know this is the case for me, I'm not judging it, and I'm going to see what is it here to teach me. Now, once you start to follow that thought train and you can follow it every single day, you start to change into a better version of yourself with less effort. So if you feel like you procrastinate, that's also a sign that you've been living in survival mode. Procrastination. Your body literally is trying to protect itself from being overworked, and all of the hormones in your body just saying you're under attack. This is a terrible way to live, and a lot of us have created businesses and families and had children and relationships in survival mode. And so if you're starting to be attracted to metaphysics, spirituality, manifestation, the laws of the universe, the law of hermetics, which is basically the same thing. One came first, hermetics. But if you're attracted to this and then you start trying to apply this information, but you haven't done the shadow work, guess what you're going to be manifesting? You're going to be manifesting a lot of shadow shit, right? So those are some of the common themes with Black Sheeps, and it's a really special thing that we're here to do. We're here to be cycle breakers. We're not here to fit in. We're not here to be like everybody else. We're here to be authentic to the point where other people feel like, oh, I can be my authentic self too. I don't have to hide anymore. And let me tell you, the false self mask that we wear a lot of them. We had to be somebody else to survive. It's no shame in that. I feel like you are a genius if you created these different coping mechanisms to be able to survive. That means you're a genius. There's no shame in being a genius, right? You're a genius. So, anybody resonating with what I'm saying about it in this information, I hope I'm making it make sense, and hopefully you starting to see your shadow in a different way, because there's a lot of beauty in the shadow self. So, yeah, it's so much, but I want it to be simple. I want people to feel loved and cared for when they interact with me. I want people to feel like whatever pain has showed up in their life, it does have purpose, and you can actually create a life based around it. And you don't have to fix everything. I see some of y'all got my message that I sent through weeks. You don't have to fix everything. You do not have to fix everything. Look, y'all, a lot of these influencers and these other teachers and stuff, they'll have you feeling like shit every day. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to fix everybody. You don't even have to fix yourself. You need tools and a community of like-minded people to support you. Once you have those things in place, transformation becomes just a part of your day-to-day life. I live this way. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that I put in the course just to help y'all see, because today is actually going to be the last day. We're coming into the last day where the course is only $79. And so if this is resonating with you, then, you know, don't wait. Go ahead and do it and do the work. Because let me tell y'all why. I'm finna get weird. I really enjoy weird parts of me. But before the queen died, I might have to take this down after this because I'm gonna say something. But before the queen died, she had a Jubilee Games, which is kind of like the Olympics. And at the ceremony, she would usually have like a huge diamond or some type of gemstone or something sitting on a pillow, and it would be part of the ceremony. But this time was different. She had a globe of earth. And you know, this is the first time. I look back as far as I could go, and I had never seen that in the ceremony before. She had a globe of earth. And I was like, that's interesting. No diamonds, you know, no emeralds, none of that. Like earth. I was like, okay, you know. Then further on into the ceremony, they lit up lights. And the lights were shaped like DNA. And I'm like, okay, we got earth and we got DNA. Okay. The lights moved into a tree. And as they went into the tree, I started to get major downloads from the Akashic Records as to what this ceremony was about. So, planet Earth has been seeded with many different genetic mutations from what we would probably call extra-dimensional intelligence. This is why you see key things about our blood type. This is why there are certain ways that you are to eat if you have a certain blood type. We are the same inherently, but there are a lot of differences as well. Now, this is the type of information I get into on my Patreon community, and it's only $1. If you just donate $1, you get access to almost 400 posts of shit that you ain't gonna really hear nobody else talk about and explain the way that I do and make it make sense. Because spiritual bypassing is really a thing. This information can be really interesting, especially to people like us. But like, if it ain't helping you with your life, like at some point you got to sit it aside, right? Especially if there's things in your life you want to change. But I'm thinking Earth, okay, Earth, there has been a lot of genetic experiments that happen here on this planet. We're not the only civilization. I mean, wouldn't even make sense. As huge as our star system is alone, wouldn't even make sense to think we're the only intelligence. If you think that, it's a really arrogant thing to think, right? And your enlightenment journey will end there, because there's so much more than what we can see, and the light spectrum is so small. So there's so many other things happening that we cannot see visibly. Okay, so the DNA. Well, during this time, this was like right in the middle of the pandemic, so it was so much happening with DNA, and some people were saying that people's DNA was changing and being altered, and there was an invention created that actually cuts and pastes a portion of your DNA. Actually, your messenger ribonucleic acid, your mRNA, is edited. So all this was happening at this time. And I realized that Earth is a really special resource within our solar system. And so many things that we have here that don't exist anywhere else And a lot of those unique things also are happening inside our DNA. We're going through DNA activations. So there are metamorphoses, adaptations, things that are changing within us. Now, if you study genetics, epigenetics is basically the imprint on DNA from the environment, from conditions, things that happened. So people who have dealt with racism across many generations, your DNA is going to be different than someone who has never been a part of community that was considered to be the minority and inferior. Which means whether you remember any childhood trauma or not, on a generational level, trauma usually spans anywhere from 7 to 14 generations backwards. So what was happening up to 14 generations prior to you being here is imprinted on you. It's in your DNA. Your DNA is the code in monotheistic religious text that is called the Book of Life. It is the code that dictates your life. It is the code that carries an imprint of previous lifetimes. Well, if some people have had that edited, then you can see how this is going to have an impact on a generational level. And there are a lot of people who are now doing more research about the way shots impact children and children's children and so forth. So if the queen was giving this as an offering in the ceremony, who was she giving it to? Okay, she was making sure that she kept her end of the deal before she left. Now, I predicted this, and I predicted a lot of this a really long time ago. Got shadow banned and stuff for it. Ain't nobody out here eating good from telling people the truth that some people don't want people to know. Let me just say that. But it was a risk that I was willing to take because I want people to be empowered and empowered with the truth. And the truth is not absolute. It can change depending on which dimension we're in and which timeline we're on. It can shift. But with that being said, inherently something inside of me says y'all are so much fucking valuable than you know. All while Pluto been in Capricorn, the systems have been actually putting the karma on y'all, right? So if we give a commercial and the commercial tricks cereal, okay, it's rainbow colored. We're attracted to it because all of our chakras is lighting up. Visually, we're seeing this. Okay, so we eating it. Our parents buying it. They don't know. There's a level of karma that comes with that. There's a level of, there's a causal realm and effectual realm. Okay, so the cause could have been the cereal, but now a lot of us are having issues with our health and our mental health. So did the karma go to the corporations who are a part of what the board that the queen was a part of? No. Ignorance is bliss only until the repercussions of that ignorance start to show up. And this is where we are now, right? So this is the way karma works. This is the way the causal realm and effectual realm works. So for a lot of us, we have, and this is what I want to get into, but for a lot of us, we've been running from our healing. And everything in the world is meant to drug and numb and distract you from the healing that's actually going to empower you, which is actually going to impact the world, which is going to change the trajectory of humanity one person at a time. Capitalism, corporations, they use our pain to get rich and to hold seats of power. Y'all know that, right? All right. If our pain is powerful enough to uphold systems that keep us oppressed, what could it do for you? Just think about that for a moment. Because a lot of times when you're going through the awakening and you're starting to know things and see things like you've never seen it before, we get stuck at the level of noticing it. When you get to the next level, ask yourself, if my pain is that valuable and that powerful, why am I not using it? Anybody resonating with that? I don't care how disempowered you feel. If you know that your power has been misused, that means that you have a really, really high value just by existing. Ashe, Celeste. So, okay. So y'all here with me, all right? So if your pain is that valuable to uphold a system that is built on illusions, then that means when you start tapping into it, you can change your reality, right? And I assume that that's what we're here for, right? I assume that we know now that's what we're here for. We're here to be change makers, cycle breakers. You know what I'm saying? So to give you that, if you run from your healing right now, this next full moon that's coming up, is going to be a test to see who is ready to be done with systems of disempowerment, oppression, suffering, pain, all of the shit that's been in the shadows that we see coming out now, all of the people that's been involved and we see it coming out now. I gave out a map, a prophetic map based on the ancient Mayan civilization of being able to track and predict things before they happen. I gave that out. I've been giving that out for the past 4 years. That's on my Patreon as well. On that map, it talked about this. So the people who've been tapped in, when we was Remnants Gathering, we went from Remnants Gathering to being called Weirdo Gang Gang, from Weirdo Gang Gang to being called New Verse Live, and now it's Untamed Souls because I'm going through a metamorphosis. So for those of you who've been around since the beginning, you know, right? You know. Your triggers, your trauma, your family's dysfunction is one of the best things that ever happened to you. Your separation, your breakup, your divorce, one of the best things that ever happened to you. And I know how crazy that sounds, but it's supposed to sound crazy because it's only supposed to be accessed by those whose heart is pure enough to be ready to receive the bounty of this truth. When you learn how to detach from the things that's draining you, your power starts to return. And there are many ways to do this. So in the course, I took spirituality and combined it with personal development for the purpose of self-mastery. So it's shadow work. It's alchemy. There's a meditation in this course. So dope. I'm excited to do it tonight because every time I learn something different about myself or the world, usually about myself because that's my focus because I do create my world. But there's this meditation where, because I'm a white galactic wizard, that's my galactic frequency, right? So there's a timelessness that exists within me. My Atmakarika, which is my soul planet in Vedic astrology, is Saturn. Saturn rules over the simulation. So these things set me up to be able to be efficient and effective in what I'm doing now. So with that, I went into the Akashic Records, and this information is held across many lifetimes. right? It's like if you want to know something, to learn something, it's in the Akashic Records. And the Library of Alexandria in ancient Kemet was the earth version of that, which is why it got burned down, right? And people stole the information and still using it today. Why we not using it, right? This is why I have an Egyptian name, yet I was born in America, but I was born in Alexandria, which is also an Egyptian city, and I was raised in Memphis, which is also in Egypt. So all of these things tell a story of what my soul is here to do, and it's sparking other people. So in this meditation, I actually take you to meet your shadow self in a neutral space. And all around you, there are crystals and Mama Nature and waterfall to cleanse you and purify you. Because when you start doing this work, you're opening up the compartments that hold certain traumatic experiences and whatever thoughts and emotions was created by the experience. In order for you to survive, we have to compartmentalize and we have to push that stuff away into the shadows. It's like an attic or a basement. And so I take you into this space in a safe way, because there is, there are other energies within these planes of consciousness that will attach to you. And I mean, it happens all the time. It's just not like weird or strange or anything like that. But a lot of times we make things strange because we fear it, right? And so we're not doing that anymore. Fear does not allow us to live in the highest form of creation, which is love. And that's what a lot of us be craving. That's why we turn into narcissists and we turn into codependence. We're trying to get that supply of love and connection. So in this meditation, I connect you in a safe way with your shadow self. And your shadow self is going to deliver a message to you that you have been running from. Now, every time I did this meditation, and I spent a few years doing this meditation before I even presented it to the world. And each time I do it, I'm so amazed how I learn something different every time. And then what I learn, I realized I've been getting synchronistic messages before I did the meditation to help me understand that about myself. Not only is your shadow self going to be there, but your inner child, I'm going to call your inner child in as well. So let me tell you how this works. So with these compartments inside of your mind, I'm going to get off here after this. Y'all see how passionate I am about this. Like, this shit right here is like, this is where it's at. This is why a whole lot of people not doing this work. Only the 1% is going to be serious. This is where it's at. This is why a whole lot of people not doing this work. Only the 1% is going to be serious about and dedicated to become a better version of themselves. The other 99 just going to keep hoping and wishing, doing the same thing they've always done and never get a different outcome, right? I'm not speaking to those people. Them not my people. You know what I'm saying? They got their own stuff. But when you create sacred space, safe space, the inner child inside of you that be sabotaging stuff finally feels safe enough to talk to you. Now, a lot of us, maybe unaware, make our inner child feel unsafe. If your nervous system, which is the communication system of spirit, is dysregulated, your inner child is living inside of you. I want you to imagine that there's a box inside of you right now. And inside of that box, much like the Russian dolls, your inner child is sitting in there. And your inner child is listening to your thoughts. Like listen to the radio. Your inner child is watching through your eyes, like watching TV. As within, so without. Right? And if your inner child don't feel safe, your inner child don't trust you. And if your inner child don't trust you, but is still having to deal with the trauma and watching the coping mechanisms, that you use, and it's making your life harder. Like, please don't try to use no affirmations to manifest something. Please don't go and pay somebody to get no spell and do this and that and the third. Like, you need to be a safe space within yourself first before you start doing any of the other stuff. I have already been down that road too. And I was creating unnecessary resistance in my life, which I I talked about that in the song, Mending My Soul. So I got about 5 minutes, y'all. They're giving me 5 minutes. I never seen this before. Hold up. All right. I had to do a puzzle to stay on. I got 5 more minutes. So let me say this. If you haven't created that safe space inside of yourself, of course you're going to be dealing with the inner critic often. And of course you're going to manifest criticism outside of you. Even if it's just your own holographic illusion that you're being criticized, you're going to manifest that because you're the projector. You're projecting onto the wall, and the wall is your reality. If you're in a relationship and you're trying to be intimate and you got all that going on, that's going to create a block. And you could really be trying your hardest, and it's just not going to land the same. If you're trying to get a job and your heart wants to be aligned with your true self, if you're trying to get a job, but you got all that conflict going on inside of you, you're probably going to end up with a job, with a boss, or with coworkers who reflect that. They're going to mirror that back to you. The universe is a mirror, and it's just going to keep mirroring it back to you until you finally do what it is that you need to do so that you can live aligned and live in your truth. Here we go again, and I'm not even in the studio booth. But, and so that meditation is going to take you there in a safe place, and every time you'll learn something different about yourself. And it's not your average Rudy-Pooty meditation. It was a whole lot of emotional, energy and nurturing. There are ceremonies that I do before I create anything because everything is energy, right? So on the surface, yes, it's a meditation, but deeper than that, it's a shamanic journey into the parts of yourself that actually hold the power that need to be healed. And I was going to do a full moon oracle card reading and all that, but I really, there are so many other ways to transmit truth and power to people. So I'm doing it like this right now, but I might, do it another way next time. Every form of everything that I do and bring to the world, it has the root intention, of helping people to be transformed and helping people to be able to actually stop procrastinating and committing yourself and being dedicated to doing the work. That ultimately that discipline is what is going to actually change your life. The affirmation's not going to do it. The meditation by itself ain't going to do it. Mine or nobody else's. Listening to no books ain't going to. The podcast, all that is great, but it's only information until you actually start embodying the information and interacting with your world as if you know what you know. You got to act like you know what you know. And maybe you know a lot, but you're not applying it. So in the course, I go over all of that. And of course, I also tell you how to deal with difficult people. Sometimes people are just having a hard time, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse, and you can be on hell. You can be on earth watching hellish things happen, but feel like you in heaven. We can do all three. So ascension or spiritual awakening, the purpose of that is to learn how to be an alchemist, to learn how to transmit energy, to take whatever it is in your hands and play that game with them cards, in a major way. I also talk to you about growing up in a narcissistic family dynamic in the course, and I tell you the purpose of that. Every problem that you can think of, I went into the Akashic Library to see, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? What's the purpose? Let's get to the point. What's the purpose? So running from our healing is not going to help us. The people who actually invest in this and do this work are going to live a completely different life than the people who are still running from their healing. So just watch and you'll see what I mean. All right, y'all. So where the course at? Who's that? Cuz. Cuz. I ain't got a lot of people that call me Cuz unless you really a Cuz. I need a moderator. I'm going to have to get me a moderator. So the course is at untamedSouls.com. I'm going to get off here because this is a masterclass in itself, but Untamed, UNTAMED, Souls, SOULS.com. And the link is also in my bio and description on YouTube. So I talked to y'all long enough. I feel like those who are ready will take that step. I got it marked down. It's only $79. The sale ends tomorrow, so go ahead and make that decision now. You get a free complex post-traumatic stress disorder test, so you can identify, like, am I really stressed out? Where am I stressed out? Why? So that way you know exactly what it is that you will benefit from transforming. You get a free ebook as well, Harnessing Your Sixth Sense, teaching you how to be a master of using your intuition. So necessary. Anybody trying to navigate Earth without intuition is going to have some unnecessary challenges. Like, we're not trying to do that, right? And no judgments for the people who's still there. Maybe just think the lifetime that they accepted to be able to awaken to these truths. Also, after you get those 2 free things, all throughout the course, I'm going to give you tests, and the purpose of the test is to get to know yourself. But let me say this, I've been excited to talk about it. I've been holding out, and I got about 2 more minutes, so I'm going to tell you. In the course, I also help you to recognize if you attracted a partner who has trauma, whether they're ready to deal with it or not, because you might realize this, but they may not know how to deal with it. And I show you how to deal with it in a way where it's not going to create problems. I am a peacekeeper, peacemaker, Libra sun. So, that's one of the things that I'm really good at too. But I'm going to show you how to do that. But to identify, like, who is more high functioning in the realm of emotions. In relationships, everything is not going to be equal. One person will be able to cook well. Another person will be able to build houses. It's just going to be different. So that's in the course too. So just go to the landing page, which is the page that you land on the website, the home page, and read about it. And you'll be able to just go ahead and dive in and do the work. And for those who are ladies, I invite my ladies into the private community. Men, if y'all want something, send us a message on the website and let us know, and we will create a space for you. But for all my ladies out there, because the divine feminine is being called to the forefront. Feminine exists in men too, but I know we need a place to be able to talk off of here. All right. And so that's where all of that happens. And so it's a lot of stuff that's already in there waiting for y'all. But I appreciate y'all. I wasn't going to do this live tonight, and I decided to go ahead and do it. So this has been an overview. I appreciate y'all so much. Black Sheeps, look, you have a purpose. Go ahead and tap in. Don't wait. And protect your energy. I got so many ways for you to protect your energy. Even if you living with people you need to protect your energy from. Like, come on now. Who don't want peace, right? Who don't want peace? Maybe some people don't, but that's in the course too. It's too much for me to tell you what's all in there now. But I make it easy for you in 30 minutes a day. Just spend 30 minutes with yourself. You're not going to regret it. By the time December gets here, we're going to be sitting back looking at stuff like, yeah, that's happening again. And it's about to turn all the way up. And people are going to really be losing their grip with their mental health. People are going to be losing their grip and not really being able to deal with life. And so, I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but this is a necessary part of creating a new reality that's rooted in love. A lot of things that we've been running from is coming to the surface. So don't let your pain use you. Use your pain. All right, y'all. Turn your pain into purpose. Yep, that's it. Peace.